Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and the creators, and then examine the stories and the art. And today I want to take a little trip back to the 1960s and take a look at one of the lesser known characters. This is from this book here, which is Mighty Comics number 43 from 1967. I want to take a look at The Web. The Web. This is Mighty Comics. It says published by Radio Comics, which was actually Archie Comics. It's convoluted. Yeah. And you might say, Web? Who's the Web? What's the Web? So, we consult the big book of knowledge and it'll tell us all kinds of stuff. Okay. This is MLJ, Mighty Comics, Archie Comics, The Web. And The Web is a fictional superhero character from MLJ Comics. He was created in 1942 by an unknown writer and by artist John Casson. He he appeared in Zip Comics through 1943 and was reintroduced in 1966. In the mid-60s, Archie Comics revived their golden age superheroes. And this was in response to the rising popularity of superheroes from Marvel and DC. He returned in Flyman number 36, but from what I can tell, they were always basically Mighty Comics, and they were all numbered in that. And sometimes, like in this case, this is the Shield and the Web, but the actual title of the book appears to be Mighty Comics. So Flyman would have been the lead in probably Mighty Comics number 36. Anyway, and the character was written, and virtually all of these were written and drawn, at least the ones I can find, probably some others, written and drawn by Jerry Siegel, or written by Jerry Siegel, drawn by Paul Reinman. And those names should be familiar, at least to some of us. Jerry Siegel, co-creator of Superman, and Paul Reinman. I talked about them also last year when I did the Mighty Crusaders episode, because they were the creators on the Mighty Crusaders. And Paul Reinman had earlier on had done a lot of inking on Jack Kirby for Marvel. And at this time, the superheroes of Mighty Comics were more on the campy side. Yeah, kind of camp humor, even though it's not necessarily intended to be humorous. And often in these days, the stories were simply about some new villain popping up, challenging the hero to fight, and then being defeated by the hero with a little plot. And this is a little plot. This has just a little bit more, but that's basically the plot right there. But it has a little bit on the side. And this era in this era, the heroes often had problems in their lives in mimic of Marvel, and primarily Spider-Man. And Webb's life problems was his wife. And she hated him fighting crime, and they often argued over it, and it earned him the tag as the henpecked hero. And the next line I'm not going to talk about because that actually takes place in this story. But I do want to say one thing, that is later on it is revealed that his wife, Rose, his name is Professor Raymond, I've forgotten his first name, and his wife, Rose, is actually the sister of another superhero, the Jaguar. Okay. Let's go back and have a little bit of fun with the Webb, the Penheck superhero. Okay, here you can get a better view of that cover, a series of illustrations. Of course, the lead story in here is the Shield, and Webb being secondary. And you can see this is a pretty rough copy, because that's what I've got. These several years ago at a comic shop, I come across 3 or 4 of these titles, of these books, and they were all in this condition. Must have spent some time in a musty basement or something there, and the staples have separated from the rusted out of the cover, but it still holds together, and it's still some fun reading. That's all it is fun reading. They're hokey, goofy, and one little thing I was going to tell you, because I call them superheroes. They are superheroes, but remember that the superhero is an expression, a term that was coined in the 60s. Back in the golden age, they were known as mystery men. Yeah, all those superheroes were mystery men. And then I don't know who coined the term superheroes, but it was used by everybody. And both Marvel and DC tried, from what I understand anyway, tried to trademark the term superheroes, and they couldn't, because it was just an ordinary word. So now all of them are known as superheroes. It's just a common term, the superheroes. And here, but in these Archie comics, they don't call them superheroes. I think in some of the earlier stuff I read, they did use the term superheroes, but I think they were having a little bit of the copyright thing going on, and they changed it to they don't call them superheroes, they call them ultra heroes. Maybe just a way of protecting themselves. So we'll take a little look in here. I'll do some of the Shield another time. On here, see our big old splash page. Mighty Comics presents the Web versus the Viperous Villains. Enter the prize Pussycat of the Month. Now that sounds stupid. The Stunner. And the Web. Mighty Comics henpecked hero fights Mr. Scare to a startling finish. And then our first actual page in the story, the splash page of his wife Rose throwing dishes at him. No. And notice that he has kind of a cape-like thing, and it's all in the form of a web. I don't know his actual origin, but the Web does not have any superpowers. And he took the name the Web because he's kind of like, think it's kind of like the spider from the pulps. But because he catches the crooks in the web of crime of their own making, hence the web. So and he's asking, being reasonable. She's throwing stuff at him because she catches him going out in his costume. He's going to be doing something. I guess he had been retired for a while. This is when he got married, but he's taken up the mantle of the web once again. Here she's all mad at him, and he said, "Sorry, honey, I gotta go." And this is kind of silly. Dashes right out the window. You think that somebody doesn't realize that he's the web, and he startles the mailman and takes off. There's something going on, some kind of a bank robbery in progress. But what's this? This guy who's calling himself Marbles from Mr. Elf. Got all these giveaway stuff here, and right in front of the bank, giving stuff away to the kids. So that moments later, the bank robbers come rushing out, and the guards are right behind, but they can't shoot because of the crowd of kids who are in the way. The web gets there, grabs the marbles from Mr. Elf, and tosses them on the ground, and all the bank robbers stumble and fall because of the marbles. And some decent panel-to-panel continuity. He's not the best artist. Was a fine inker, but I mean, he's not bad. I don't say he's bad. Don't get me wrong, but it's just not some decent action. Not as dynamic. It's more slick, kind of something that might have found in some of the other publishers, but at the time, it's fairly slick. His anatomy isn't as good. It's very stylized. Anyway, then this photographer's right there and gets a picture of it, and Mr. Elf gets on the back of this motorcycle, starts to get on the back of this motorcycle with this other guy, and the web catches him and pulls off a mask, and he's Mr. Scare. I know you're Mr. Scare. And the other guy he's the stunner, and he's got these special gloves. Touches the web, and he's stunned. Kind of zaps him and stuns him, giving them a chance to get away, even though the actual bank robbers were, because Mr. Scare is the mastermind, and the other guys were the flunkies, and Stunner is the muscle. Well, they get away, but he's not happy, but he's congratulated by the cops for catching these guys. Well, he's got to come up with a way to catch Mr. Scare. And he gets home just in time. Oh, his wife is all lovey-dovey. She's just made him a nice dinner. That's some noodles, just his favorite noodles. And then dumps them all over his head. Oh, she's angry. Because she sees in the paper. It got in the paper awfully quickly. About the capture of the bank robbers. And she's not happy. Well, I'm leaving. I'm just going out for a walk. Leaving him to his own devices for something to eat. Oh, I have reader letters page. But we follow Rose, his wife Rose, and she goes to a special gym where she's been doing gymnastics training and judo training and the like by this coach. And he says, "Oh, you're just wonderful. You're about the best student I've ever had." But then I said, "Thanks." And she goes back home because she's been doing this for a while. And then back home, she makes him sleep on the couch. Okay, so he's sleeping on the couch, and he turns on the radio, listens to the radio, and here's about a challenge from, see what I said? Challenge? There's a challenge from Mr. Scare to the web at a certain place at a certain time. So he gets in his costume and he takes off. Well, Rose spots that, and she's got all surprise of her own. She puts on a mask and costume of her own, and she follows him. She heard the thing, and here's Mr. Scare. But Mr. Scare isn't very scary. I don't know why. He's just in his suit and bow tie. But anyways, he's at this carnival and he's yelling for the web to show up, and nothing. I must have scared him off. I'm really Mr. Scare. Of course, lots of people would be there to watch this if they had the challenge over the radio like that. All kinds of people would be there, including news. But she starts. Rose starts following him. Then she sees, oh, there's the web. He's following the guy, and so Web follows Scare, and Rose follows the web, and she's using the name Pow Girl. Pow Girl? See, kind of silly. It's all good fun. He gets back to the hideout, and he said, I scared him off. He's nothing. The web's nothing. And then he busts in. You think I'm nothing? I'll take you all out. All by myself. Why should I just take out the boss when I can get everybody? So he busts in and he starts cleaning house, just knocking these guys out right and left. But then the stunner comes up and is about to grab him, and he's saying he's going to turns up the power on his stun gun and on his stun gloves, and I just won't let go, and eventually it'll kill you. So right then, Pow Girl comes swinging in just in time to pow him, using some of her judo and her gymnastics, and she takes him out while the web finishes off the other bad guys and said, "Oh wow, that's neat. We did a good job. Thanks for showing up just when you did." And then she says, "Well, why don't we become a team?" Says, "Sorry, I'm a bit of a loner." And then she's got this idea. Oh, she's going to test him because he doesn't know she's Rose, and she kind of starts flirting with him, and he takes off right then. Did kiss? Going to kiss? No kiss. And he takes off. He heads home. She gets home before him. Don't know why. And she's changed, and now she's being nice to him because she found out she can trust him in those regards with other women, and she's being nice to him. Said, "Well, maybe you can rethink your career a little bit, as the web. It might not be so bad." And she starts to feed him, and now he's curious. Why? What's this about face of Rose? It's too good to be true. Yeah, that's right. It's too good to be true. Meanwhile, Rose is thinking, strangely enough, I enjoyed being Pow Girl. So maybe I'll just continue doing a little bit of crime fighting. And so that's a hint. Because from what I understand later, she keeps popping up, helping the web, and they kind of become unofficial partners. And the web doesn't know that his wife is his crime fighting partner. And of course, they know each other so well. He should easily be able to tell. But it's comics, right? And that's the end of this story of the web. That's fun. It's silly, but it's just good, clean fun. And the artwork, it's mainstay for the time. Not as good as what you get at Marvel and DC, but it's adequate. And of course, both the writer and the artist worked for both Marvel and DC, so at various times. So there they are. This visual storytelling isn't bad at all. It's good. The panel to panel continuity and the like. Even has some decent action, just not quite as not as dynamic as you would expect, maybe with Jack Kirby or something. But it's good. The writing lacks, but this story was more interesting just because of the aspect of Rose and as Pal Girl, etc. So that is all what I've got for the web. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. And remember, comics are art.